Welcome back to another episode of Elevator Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. I am the Uncle Junior, and with me today are the Wolf Pack members. It's a whole bunch of us today. It's 8 of us. We're going to really get into it tonight when we start talking about paternal parenting and child support. This is going to be an extension of last week's show. So if you hadn't watched last week's show, that's okay. You can still go back and watch it anytime you want. So today on the panel, we got Mr. Gamal Catton. Did I get it right this time? Oh, I knew I was going to get it right finally. I probably still got it wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer, the mindset coach himself, rolling down the street, the poor man, Dr. Phil. Ladies and gentlemen, back with us again for part 2, Mr. TMI, Mr. Tate, the host of TMI News on the Bold and Driven EP. Ladies and gentlemen, the other artist, Mr. Antoine Christopher, 2-time best-selling author, the man with all the code, the man with Mr. Accountability himself, Mr. Victor Viziant, and last but not least, just an ordinary guy trying to learn across the table with Christopher. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing this evening?
Hey,
Amazing.
I am well.
Look, man, I've already got extra energy tonight. You know, I was already feeling good, and then Chris was talking about how he had such a good day.
Man, today was so dope.
Yeah, and then the music was playing in the background, and he was getting busy. I was like, man, when I have a party, Chris definitely has to be there.
Man, I told you, man, your intro is fire.
Bruh.
That instrumental is hot, man. I'm telling you. I freestyle to it every time I come on.
Bro, I'm gonna tell you this. If you guys are looking for another hot fire intro Friday night, ladies and gentlemen, the Empowering Perspective podcast, bro, go check it out. Dwayne, go plug your show real quick while I pull up my notes.
Hey, like you said, man, every Friday night, 8 p.m. Just go to YouTube, type in Empowering Perspectives. We host a show on Friday nights. It's all about empowering these young men to make good decisions so that we can strengthen our communities. But it's not just for men; it's for men, women. You know, as they said back in the days, women, men, boys, girls, cats, dog, everybody, come one, come all.
I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. TMI, Mr. Tate, sir, what's going on over there on your platform?
A lot's going on. No, I'm just kidding. Ain't nothing happening. But TMI News on Tuesday night, man, we always bring the topics that are relevant to us. We do it in a humorous way. However, we drop gems all day. So check us out, Bold and Driven EP on YouTube.
I like it. Hey, gentlemen, last week we talked about paternal parenting and child support. We're going to continue that conversation this week. Before I do, I just want to jump into this quick talking point, and then we are going to get started. Also, to the chat, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Feel free to jump in, chime in the chat, all of those different things like that. Thank you to everybody at home who's watching, who have taken time out of their day to spend with us. We hope you enjoy the show. Hit the like button, share the video with somebody else, and please subscribe if you have not already. So, fatherhood is a journey that never truly ends. As children grow and develop, fathers continue to play an important role in their lives, both emotionally and financially. In part 2 of Fatherhood Chronicles, Paternal Parenting and Child Support, we will delve deeper into the financial challenges that fathers face as they strive to provide for their children. Through personal stories and expert insights, we will explore the complexities of child support, including legal obligations, financial planning, and the impact of non-payment. Our goal is to provide fathers with the knowledge and some tools they need to navigate these challenges and become more financially responsible and engaged fathers. Join us as we continue to build a supportive community for fathers and offer practical tips and strategies for overcoming these obstacles of fatherhood. Whether you are a new dad or a seasoned parent, Fatherhood Chronicles, Parental Parenting, and Child Support 2 has something for everyone. Gentlemen, the first question of the night is this: how do you manage your emotions as a father?
You definitely use stoic behavior. You know, I talk a lot about thick skin. Somebody has to have thick skin because, you know, you have to be in position to assert your authority with a certain level of credibility. If you do it from an over exaggerated or overly emotional expression, as a man, you lose a lot of credibility. You know, you can't run your relationship and make decisions looking like an angry football coach. You know what I'm saying? So there's a level of class and delivery that has to be accompanied with your tone, and that's going to actually allow you to get the outcomes you want, you know, based on what your responsibility is to that relationship.
Can I ask you a question, Vic?
What's up?
What do you mean by stoic? I need you to
Yeah.
can you please go more in depth in that?
Okay, like stoicism is about demeanor. It's about exuding a certain level of body language where, you know, you don't let anybody get you rattled. You don't let them see you sweat. You never change your tone no matter what the situation is, because you can't expect that person to accept your true intent if your body language communicates something different than what the situation is talking about, you know, meaning like you can't overreact to every single little thing and let everything bother you. Can't let the small stuff sweat you, you know. And if you do, it piles up on you, and then you don't become a place of refuge and consistency in your own relationship. And that doesn't have anything to do with it's romantic or platonic, because if nobody's going to follow somebody that can't control their body language, because in a lot of situations, body language tells more about the person than before they even speak. I think it communicates some level of behavior that triggers defensive instincts, and it lets you know how far a conversation can or can't go with certain people when they're not receptive. You know, so stoicism, as long as you remain neutral, more people can communicate with you. More people be willing to share. You create a space of vulnerability, protection, and respect. This is why, like, not interrupting each other when you're having a communication gap and you're trying to sew it up. This is why you got to let everybody complete their thought. You can't just wait until you hear a key word and listen to respond. If you want that same level of continuity and communication, you have to first exhibit it, and you can't exhibit it from an emotionally expressive place if you're not stoic. You know what I'm saying? I think
the reason why I asked that question,
I think it communicates better when you're stoic. I'm not saying you can't communicate in an emotionally expressive way, because some people it's not real for them until you hurt their feelings. You know what I'm saying?
right?
So,
But the reason why I asked that question is because stoic is another buzzword, and a lot of people, when they hear stoic, they hear automatically you don't have emotions, when really being stoic is you don't allow your emotions to control your decision making.
absolutely.
At least that's what you're trying to, at least that's what I got from what you just said.
Yeah, like stoicism, the word itself captures a level of emotional intelligence that lets you know that you're using your trigger responses as more of an instinct. I think if you have, because everybody's got the same feelings, but if you mix it with the role of your leadership in the situation, your equity in the situation, your personal accountability, and you kind of package that up, it becomes an instinct. You know what I'm saying? To let you know, like instead of going into the room complaining about the temperature, you become the thermostat.
That makes sense. Thank you for breaking that down. And like I said, I wanted you to talk about that because being stoic is a buzzword. You know what I'm saying? The word stoic itself is a buzzword. It doesn't mean that you don't have emotions. It just means that you feel them, but they're not about to control the decisions that you make to better your life.
Yeah, you have to
You
have
gotta
authority
feel
over
them.
your boundaries. You
Right.
got to have authority over your boundaries, because some people got boundaries but don't know how to enforce them.
That makes sense to me. Thank you. Thank you for
Was you
breaking that
going to
down.
say something, Coach? Okay, Mr. TMI, what you got on the topic?
I totally agree with Victor, and I'm gonna say it from this perspective. Fathers the role of a father. You got to show that you can be that still water in the midst of a storm, because typically, I'm saying typically and not in all cases, but the mom leads by emotion. So the response to issues or situations or whatever tend to come from an emotional standpoint, where the father has to come from a more logical, clear thinking standpoint without emotion. Not saying that we don't have emotion. However, we got to put everything into perspective and line it up from a perspective that is not emotional, even though it could be an emotional situation for us. So, in saying that, we as fathers give the kids somewhat of what the world looks like. The world is a cold world sometimes, and it's unemotional, and the world will whip your behind. And no matter how hard you cry, it don't really give a damn. It'll continue to whip you. Not saying that that's what fathers do, but fathers prepare that child for the example, no excuses, get it done, stop crying. And it's okay for a kid to show emotion and everything, but also there's a time and a place for it. And I think us as fathers put all of that kind of into place. I don't want to go long. Go ahead.
Okay.
Wait, you muted
I'll
yourself.
talk on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I agree with TMI. I agree with Vic as well too. Well said. Definitely, when we're talking about emotional intelligence, just being able to manage your emotions and understanding the emotions of your kids during that time period. So for me, managing your emotions, I think you grow over time as a parent. So how I parented 10 years ago was really just based on how I was parented, right? I was putting my perspective of how I wanted my kids to make decisions. And, it's hard not to have certain, emotions because we are all invested in the future of our kids, right? We wanted to see them be successful. But we can definitely get upset at the decisions they make. So, where I'm at right now as a parent is just being extremely understanding. So I have a 4-year-old son, and my son is crying. Maybe in the past I would have been like, stop crying. So now I understand why he's crying. There's something that's happening at the moment where he doesn't have the words or the level of communication to be able to express his thoughts. So crying is the easiest thing for him to do, right? Maybe my daughter that's in high school is making a decision that I don't agree with. Is she trying to fit in? Maybe she was influenced. What was the reasoning behind it? So at this point where I'm parenting from a standpoint of understanding where my kids are at and what's causing the decisions that they're doing, so I can have a better understanding and approach the scenario in the best way possible. But it takes time for you to get there.
Okay. Yeah. I love where y'all going with it. And I think consistency is one of the keys that I would say in controlling your emotions and controlling your demeanor, behavior, and everything when it comes to parenting, because you have to be consistent. I hate when I see parents and okay, 3, 2, 1, don't do the countdown, counting up, or anything like that. I always give my kid, now grandkids, I tell them, I'm going to tell you twice because you might not have heard me the first time. That third time coming with some heat, because I got to get your attention. It's not to abuse you or anything. And me, whenever I'm going to have the same facial expression, whether I'm whooping you, encouraging you, or whether I'm telling you something, because my emotions ain't going to get the better of me because you're acting out. Because I learned early on with my children that when you discipline your children, when you're mad, you're going to abuse them. So if I was hot, hey, I'll get you later. Trust me, I won't forget. But I never let it get to the point where I'm mad because you acting out and I'm going to act out with you. You know how parents do. And on the Bernie Mac show where he dropped down when she dropped in the grocery store. I ain't doing all that. But if I got to get you some encouragement out in the public, I'll take you to the bathroom. I ain't got no problem with that. But always be consistent. Don't do the counting thing, and make sure that your word is your word. Don't say, well, I'm going to do this. And 7 times later, you still ain't done that. Because all they're doing is they learning how far can I stretch this thing.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you good. Yeah, I agree with everybody here. I want to also inject another idea in conjunction with it. I think the way that you manage your emotions as a father is the same way you manage your emotions as a man. I don't think it looks any different. I just I think I said this on your show the other night, Mr. TMI. Your identity of manhood literally helps you to construct the behaviors that you display. Therefore, once I have a clear identity of what a man is, then from that point on, I behave as such. When my identity is flawed or obscure, then my behavior is outside of that which which presents manhood. And if I become a father within the scope of that, within the scope of that as well, then my identity as a father is obscure as well. So what men have to do is go on the journey of self-discovery so they can understand what authentic manhood is, and then you continue that journey before you become a father so you can understand the type of father that you should have had growing up. Or if you had that father, great, that's awesome. But if you did not, yeah, you should go on that discovery. If you had that father, hopefully you learn some things from him. So I think when it comes down to how do you manage your emotions as a father, it's the exact same way you manage your emotions as a man. Because if it's not, then your child at some point is going to realize that, hey, my pop's fake. He's not authentic. He's not real. The way he handles me, he don't handle everybody else the same way. So he looks different in this space. And then at some point in time, you're going to be faced with that conversation. Why do you treat us different than you treat everybody else? So I think that's something that we need to also take a look at in conjunction with everything that everybody else said. We must be authentic.
Yeah, I like that. And so far I've liked everything that everybody said. One thing that I want to add to is even before you get to the manage of the emotion part, you have to recognize and acknowledge the emotions. A lot of times people don't know how to manage their emotions because they can't recognize when they are being emotional at times or when they're having a certain feeling or a certain emotion. And I think if you can't even recognize that you're flying off the handle, or you've grown up with a certain way and you just say, well, this is just how I am, this is just me, this is who I am, you either accept me, if you don't, that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, how is your message getting across? How is it being received? And it may be ineffective. So if you're having relationship problems, even with your son or whoever, and your emotions are not in check because you can't manage them, there is going to be a strain. There can be a strain in a relationship, and there can be an issue with getting your message across to the other person. So you have to be able to recognize those things. Um, who else got something on it? Go ahead, TMI.
So I wanted to say, and it was something that Gamal hit on slightly, but there's a evolution that takes place within the fatherhood role that we have to also identify. I know back in the day, my father was no joke, but then as he became older and a grandfather, he the cool granddad with the change in his pocket and everything, and love all his grandbabies, and they can tear up the house. And I'm like, how in the heck do you let them get away with it, but you wouldn't let us walk crooked without slapping us? And as I got my own kids, I started to understand there is an evolution that take place, because the father that you were when they were 5, you're not going to be that same father at 17, 18 years old. And you have to kind of identify where you are in the fatherhood, uh, I'm going to say cycle, because I feel like after a certain age, the age where it'll be more of a fight than you whooping them, you become more of a consultant, because they're going to do what they want to do. However, you can advise them, hey, I see that you're going this way or whatever. That wouldn't be smart. Now, it's their decision to listen to you or not. I find myself doing that a lot with my daughter, my 21-year-old daughter, because if I was to transfer back to the father I was when she was 10, no, you're not doing it, then it would cause strife between us and our relationship. So I think that, you know, as a father, you have to identify the evolution and understand where you are.
A willingness to adapt. You got to be receptive, and you got to be coachable too if you want someone else to accept your leadership and your teaching example. You know what I'm saying? You got to show that you're willing to learn, because if you're not willing to learn, how you going to get somebody to accept your guidance? That's why men have to submit to new information first before we can effectively lead.
I like that. One of the things I want to talk about a little bit, especially when it comes to parenting, being a father and working. A lot of times men have the responsibility of, being the head of the household, being the provider, doing all of these things, going out there, building the world, moving and shaking, and different things like that. So, in a lot of cases, men are not spending a lot of time at the house, or they're spending a lot of time away from the children, away from being a father. Some of us have been in the military, and we have spent extended amount of time overseas, to whereas the only communication that we had with our children was through a crappy internet connection, AOL dial up back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Or either some staticky phone or something. But we're trying to speak and trying to communicate from Iraq or Afghanistan or something like that. And in some cases, that put a strain on some of the relationships between the fathers and the sons, or just fathers and their children in general. So I want to get into how to you balance work and being a parent at the same time, for those who work.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one as well. So, man, that work-life balance, or the balance in parenting, that's a tough one, right? And some of us never achieve it. And when I really start to look at it mathematically and you break it down, it is very tough to really have the balance. And someone mentioned this a long time ago, and it was work-life integration. And that made more sense to me, right? So with work, you usually have a schedule. You may have a break in there. If you're in leadership, you may be a little bit more flexible at times as well too. So I think a good thing we can do is just really figure out how to integrate parenting, or even your personal life, into work. So you have breaks. If you got some downtime, make the phone call, have a conversation. Just be more intentional, and try to mix it all together. And I'm sure you got a time period where you have a cutoff where you're no longer working. But I just think you just got to integrate it into your life and not try to separate the two. It becomes more difficult when you try to separate the two and you can't accomplish that.
I like what you're saying there, and I like the work life integration perspective. I will add to that, if you don't mind. I would say the way that you balance is by two things: prioritization and establishing boundaries. I think a lot of times, especially when we start talking military, because you guys know, being in the military, I could, speaking for myself, it wasn't nothing for me to go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and get off and be home at 7 p.m. at night. And this was every day, especially when I started doing staff work. Once I started working in staff, I was the only person of my pay grade in the entire squadron of 1,200 people. So if I took a day off, it was felt and everybody knew it. So when I would go to work at 5 o'clock, and I would go in early so I can go to the gym, I would get there at 5 and I would not get home until 7 p.m. So I wouldn't see my kids wake up, and I get there just in time enough for them to go to bed. So I think the idea, learning from my mistakes, I think the idea is number one, priorities and boundaries. You establish those boundaries so that you do not sacrifice time with your family, do not sacrifice time with your kids and things of that nature for the sake of the dollar that you're not going to make, because chances are you're not getting paid overtime anyway. Check, studies, statistically speaking, those people who work late are the people that's on salary. Though, and so that's the key. So when you look at it, you have to make sure that your family is the priority that you tell everybody that they are.
Yeah, I like that. I want to read this comment from Randall. Randall said, being able to prioritize work and home is hard, but one thing he does is to show or tell his kids what he's working on and allow them to see their dad is working, that their dad is working. I think that's one of the things that's different now than when my children were younger. Is just technology, just the ability, to be able, like my oldest granddaughter turned 6 2 days ago, so I was able to call FaceTime, or instant messenger, and talk to her on her birthday. And because they live in Colorado, so they're a long way away. So back in the day, it was just a phone call. I got to see her and run around and do all of those cool things like that. So, but just in general, prioritizing it's hard because, you know, there's always a demand for the man of the house, and you're the man of the house. Everybody wants your time. You know, you have to spend time with your wife, you have to spend time with your children, you have to work on whatever project that is that you are working on at the same time. So you're constantly being pulled in different directions. So it's hard at times to balance, you know, making sure and finding time to spend with your children and making it something that you do intentionally.
I
So
think that part of it, just showing your child like, hey, I'm not not coming around just because I don't want to be there. I have this thing that I'm working on, would probably reshape a lot of the way the kids look at their dads, because their dads have to produce, their dads have to be something, their dads have to make sure that everything is okay. So it's
But
not like they're
even
about to, like, it's not
but
like they're about to
even if
come in and
go
just
ahead.
take over everything. It's just the fact that, hey, son, I'm working, and when you get to a certain age, I'm gonna teach you what this is all about, so that way you understand why I work so goddamn hard to make sure you are okay. That would
Yeah.
change the game.
Yeah,
Because a
but
lot of kids just think that they're just not around just because they're not around. And it's like, no, I want to make sure you cool. I want to make sure you're so cool that you really don't have to do too much. If a lot of the kids out there saw that, I think the game would change. And I think the whole perspective from parenting, especially with fathers, I think that would change too. Because a lot of these dudes out here, they're not just out here not in their kids' life just because they don't want to be. They gotta work. You understand what I'm saying? They have to work.
that's that's where you see it coming. I can only speak coming from a two-parent household, right? So my father's an islander, so he didn't speak much anyways, right? His words was his actions. So he would balance. He would never miss an important moment. Like if we had a game, soccer, my father would be there, but he wouldn't be there for the wasteful times, like where we're watching TV and he'd come down in the basement and go, "Hey guys, I'm home." Right? He was there for the important moments because he really, really came from another country. He had to provide and he wanted a good life for us. He couldn't have that loving on us every day, right? And that was my mother's role to explain that to us. That was my mother's role to comfort us and tell us, listen, daddy's not going to be there every day for you boys, but I guarantee you he'll be there on the soccer game. He'll be there on your baseball game. He'll be there for your homework. And he'd probably be there to tuck you in at night unless he doesn't work overtime. That's how I learned about overtime, right? Because my father had a specific plan. He was not going to come to Canada and the United States and be that broke man in a corner in an apartment with 4 kids up there crammed, right? He had a mission, and it was my mother's job to explain the mission to us, and it was his job to go out and do it. There was no arguing in between that, right? And when the discipline came down, and all my mother would say is, if you don't listen to me, wait till your father gets home. And that made us right across the board being straight, right? So I manage my emotions this. To me, how I manage, I'm going to raise my kids the same way my father did, because none of us had drugs. None of us did the smoking thing. None of us had kids out of wedlock. We did nothing like that. We were on a strict household, and we grew up all fine, and we're all successful doing what we do. Now, I manage my emotions based on what you mean to me in my life. If I know you're just some guy on the side, you can't trigger me. You do nothing for me, right? So I don't need to give you that attention, and I don't need to give you that reaction. I react to who you are in my life. So if you're important to me, I'm going to give you an answer. If you're not important to me, you don't need one, and you don't deserve one. If I get mad, I'm going to show you I'm mad, because I don't care how you respond. I'm just letting you know how I feel about the situation or what you're saying. I think people today, I think that you can walk around. If I'm going to raise a kid and I'm going to tell the kid, how should I manage my emotions? I'm going to tell them, well, who are you speaking to? Right? Because everybody deserves different. Not everybody, you can't treat everybody the same, because some people get you upset. Once my father, I remember, and I can only go back my father, he was in a grocery store and somebody got him so pissed. And I said, Dad, why don't you lace that guy down? You could take it. He goes, because you're with me. I can't let you see that side of me. So I was like, oh, okay. Right? Once I remember my mom was shopping in a cart. Some man hit my mom's cart. You know, those grocery shoppers back then, they were huge. And I said to Dad, are you going to take him down? You know, because you're the kid. My dad goes, no, because you're with me. But I can rest assured, my mother went to the right. You went back to the left where that man was and said, I think you owe my wife an apology, right? I saw that. I just saw him go to the left. We went to the right because you know how you go up the aisles like this. So I think it's very important. There's a time and place for everything with your emotions, right? But the whole, you're working late. I'm going to come home and tuck my kid in. That's great. You know, that's leave it to Beaver stuff. I get all that. But the mother does that. My mother did all that for us, right? My mother made my father the golden light that he can do no wrong. And he would love to be there for you, love to comfort you. But you know what? Daddy has to do this because you want that fight. Daddy has to do this. But I guarantee you, on the weekend, he had to be there for supper at 6, Saturday and Sunday, and we had to tell him our entire week. And if anything happened in school. So he caught up like that at the end. He didn't have that lovey-dovey stuff. I didn't have that lovey-dovey stuff during the week, which was fine. But I can tell you one thing, we were in a strict household. Yeah. And then we'd have a notepad that we'd write down if we needed things to my mom on the fridge. I remember my mom said, if you have something to tell Dad, boom, there you go.
I just want to say one thing in conjunction with that, and this is not against anything that you said, brother, but I also think as men, what we need to understand, because I've heard it so many times, like they have daughters, whatever the case may be, and I hear like, well, my daughter didn't get pregnant, so I'm good. You know, I think we need to stop focusing on what they didn't do, what we prevented them from doing, and look at what we give them. You know what I'm saying? Let's not focus on the fact that, oh, I was able to prevent my daughter from experiencing teenage pregnancy, but she might be emotionally disconnected because I ruled my house with an iron fence. That's not saying that that was anybody's scenario on this panel, but I'm just saying that I think we need to not focus, especially as men, on what they did not do when they were growing up because they made it, but look at whether or not we're able to provide them that balance, allowing them to express themselves and teaching them how to become more emotionally intelligent, teach them how to actually speak. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the thing. I'm seeing too many times young men getting on TV because they do some great, field work when it comes on to pro football, football or whatever the case may be, and they can't formulate a complete sentence. Well, that's evident that we didn't spend enough time talking to them at home and teaching them how to speak properly. So I think that's the thing as well.
Are they in school or out of school for
It's an
language?
example. It's just an example.
Because in school, I mean, I listen to kids talk today, and I'm wondering if they went to school because I'm like, God damn, is that even English? Like, really? Is that like? I'm blown away by the vocabulary I hear. It's like I don't even know if they can write that shit down. Even when they're texting, like I'm like, whoa, what
Conversation is not about vocabulary.
Well,
I don't know about you, but I have to write a proper essay. I have to write a proper email. Yeah, it matters. I mean,
with mumble rap dominating the society, we are now into the mumble conversation society, and that's with how these kids communicate. They mumble at us and they mumble at each other. But I wanted to go back to the question at hand. When it comes to fathers, we gotta not be so stuck in our role that we missing what's important. And what's important is like Coach said, is the development of the kid. At the end of the day, we know we have to provide, we know we have to protect. However, that's not our only role. And at the end of the day, I don't care if it's 20 minutes with your kid that you dedicate. When you dedicate that time, that's something that kid will never forget, because at that point you put everything to the side and made them the most important thing. We put too much stuff in front of our children. Oh, we got to go to work, got to make this overtime, got to get the money. Now I got to go and do this. Now I got to go and then for leisure, I got to go hang out with my friends, go get a drink or something like that. At the end of the day, every time you put something in front, the kid get pushed further and further to the back. Also, please understand those precious moments you never want to miss out on because you have an excuse of why you couldn't be there or why you couldn't do what you were supposed to do. I'm going to go back a little bit, fellas, and say, I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to read to my kids at night before they went to bed. That's not a father role. However, that's something that I and they will never forget. Also, things that I felt like my parents couldn't do or weren't there to do, I made sure that I was there. And on the real, I could not imagine what it would be like to miss a night with my children, not knowing if they have eaten or sleeping in a secure place. So at the end of the day, it's all about, someone put it in the comments, it's all about time. It didn't say you got a hour minimum. No, it could be 20 minutes, whatever the time is that you put in with that kid. They're going to remember that, and they're going to get some type of structure of how they should be, whether it's a girl or a boy, when they become of age.
Yeah, it's all about time management, though. No, I mean,
Yes,
you know what's important. You do.
Yes.
You know what's important, and I think your wife will tell you what's important. I think your wife will stress when you should be there. I mean, listen, you can read to your kid anytime. Those are great. You know, like I said, those are great Leave It to Beaver moments. I get it, but at the end of the day, you want a house for them to read in. I'm just saying, you want a life of them to live. You can't capture every moment.
Absolutely.
You can't.
Now let me add on. I don't mean to cut you off, Antoine. Let me add on real quick. I was gonna say communication with your kid is just as important. Because someone said it. If your kid know what you're doing during that time, it's not so tough that you're not there with them. You explain to them the reason why we're able to have this lifestyle is because I go out and work. I have to bring this check home. You know, if I stay here or if I'm available to you 24 hours a day, we cannot have the things that we have. So it's about communication.
And
what you got, Roland?
I just want to jump in at this part because I agree with the fellas about time management and everything. But I think one thing we don't do now is we don't make the kids do what they don't want to do. So if I'm outside working in the yard, little boy, you ain't sitting up in my house while I'm outside. If I'm outside washing cars, you ain't sitting out in the house in the AC while I'm watching.
This how you do that. Get your little ass up. Bring this bucket and come help me clean this car off.
Yep. But you ain't
get your little ass up and bring this rake so we can rake these grass clippings out of the damn yard. Get off your lazy ass.
If you started early, you don't even have to get all belligerent with them. You just hey, let's go. So they know this is what we're doing, and it establishes a pattern, and they know. And that's time where a son especially gets to spend time picking his daddy's brain, learning what's going on, because now you get to sit up under me, ask them little boy questions, ask about little girls if you want, ask about this. You learning what it is to be a man and not just sitting up under your mama. She coddling you, she doing this, you under the AC. No, this is what men do. Men work. Men, your hands gonna be dirty too. So time management has to do with more than just saying, okay, I'm spending time. No, we got to spend some quality time, and quality time might mean you're uncomfortable.
You got to serve something greater than yourself.
It's funny, Roland.
I got a question for you guys.
I'm sorry, real quick to throw this in, Roland. It's funny because whenever my sons hear me say, "Hey, come on, get up and grab a garbage bag on your way out," he know what time it is.
Right. Oh, I'm gonna get to your
you
question.
About to do something.
I just want to throw in these quick little talking points. First of all, thank everybody in the chat. I appreciate you. Appreciate every chat, every syllable, every letter that was typed. I really appreciate it. Thank everybody for hitting the like button, the share button, and all those different things like that. Here, I want to add this quick, and then I want to get to Jamal's question. Balance comes from what the end goal is for your child. What'd I do? Oh, I probably missed.
You good, bro? You good?
Oh,
Jamal.
I said Jamal this time. Oh my goodness! Man,
hey, we know who you're talking about.
Hey, what I'm gonna do at the end of the show? I'm gonna write Gamal's name down 100 times for punishment. I will say Gamal's name correct 100 times.
I think you need to pronounce
for tonight.
Writing it down ain't the problem. Pronouncing it is. I think you need to say
okay. Everybody disappeared and everybody came right back. I don't know what happened.
But look, at the end of the day, so I think balance comes from what the end goal is for your child. You know what I mean? We're going to parent different based off what we want our child to be like and how we want them to grow up and, you know, different things like that. And I think that if you want to be a father, like if you really want to be a father, you are going to want to spend time with them. You're going to want to be there. You're going to want to adjust your schedule to spend more time with your children. So that was my little talking point when it comes to this question. And I'll move it over to Mr. Gamal.
Absolutely. Hey, just a quick story. That movie How High, and it was one of the names was Jamal. That's why I don't like that name. Pass the ball, J Rock. All right. No question I want to ask. So good points. We're talking about time, that being important. So how have you, if this applies to any one of the dads on the call, how have you changed or evolved as a parent post-COVID? Right? You got to think about the time period you probably spent at home. Maybe some of your kids were back home. You saw a lot of lost ones. People, suffered in their families. A lot of people changed during that time period. So how have you guys evolved as a parent since COVID?
Well, I'll jump in first before everybody, jump. I think for me, because you're talking about grandkids with me, because I got grown babies. I made more of an effort to do small things like I cook with my grandkids. I make sure they're integral in the putting their hands on food and learning to do small things. We do arts. We will paint. We'll go out in the backyard and I have paint brushes. And I'm not an artist, but we just getting out there doing something to stimulate their mind rather than just tick 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 or on the TV or whatnot. So I try to spend time doing things that's gonna last versus just, oh, there go granddad, there go papa.
So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with Roland. My kids are pretty much grown, so I'm a grandfather as well. And I think, and I wouldn't say that it was because of COVID. I think it was for me, it was just being a grandfather. Um, I think for me, the thing that I changed is I wanted to teach my son how to be a better father than me. So now what I do is I always ask my son, what is your plan? Like whatever it is he planned on doing, like what is your plan for my grandson? Like how are you including him into that plan? Like he just told me the other day, like, Dad, I'm moving to Georgia. Okay, what does that mean for him? Like you're not going to tell me that you're going to move and then you don't have a plan for him. I won't, you see what I'm saying? So I want him to think about all the things that when I was his age, I probably didn't think about. I want to have the conversation with him to where I am probing those deeper thinking, those deeper thought processes that makes him include his child in that, that plan. Because just think about it. When you're 20 something years old and your father was in the military gone most of the time because me and his mom didn't make it, he didn't really have an image of what fatherhood looked like. All he knew is that I worked and I worked hard and I always provided. He never went without anything. So his image, I think somebody mentioned it, and it's always tied to men: provide and protect. That's it. As long as we do that, we fit the model of manhood. But what my focus is to teach him that fatherhood, manhood is way more than what society has put the tag on us to be.
As a single guy, I could tell you, as COVID, when I thought of parenting as COVID, and it happened to me, I said to myself, my God, what would I do if I had a family, right? Because at one point I couldn't go to the bank. At one point I had enough food for me. So I was thinking, how would I do it? And I said, I got a safe after COVID, right? I got a safe in my place now that has cash in it because I said to myself, oh my God, if I had a family, and I planned for when I have a family, and it really hit me at home to say, what would I do if I had kids? Like, holy shit, I never thought about that, right? So I saw all these families in the grocery store scrambling, this and that. So now I have my list of what I would do if I had a family. I wouldn't be in that stress position because I learned from it, seeing what other families went through, the long lines in the grocery store and all that. So
Bruh, I feel you.
As a single guy, I said, wow, look at that.
Man, listen, man, it's something that we had never, ever seen before. I had never seen so many people in the grocery store just picking up necessities that they take for granted when the world shut down. It was crazy to me. Like I had never seen that before. So Antoine, I understand your point because I was the same way. Like what would happen? Like I really sat with myself, like, what would I do if the world shut down? Like,
yeah,
what like are you, because like I said, man, this is something that's never happened in our lifetimes, like ever.
Yeah. Like
So
the
I
electronic,
understand where you're coming from.
exactly like I was saying, like I have no cash. Oh my God. Everything was
Right.
on. And you couldn't go to the ATM, and I'm thinking,
I can't go to the bank, or I'm gonna get arrested for being outside. Like,
So
are you
here's
serious?
the
Yeah.
So
before we spin this into a COVID conversation, I'm gonna bring you back to Gamal's question about the parents and how we adjusted or changes. Me, I started because we were at home a lot. I started reading and I started researching more on being a parenting. And what happened, I got more confused. Just being honest. It made it a lot harder for me because I kept gaining more and more information. And I don't know what it was, but I parented a certain way. Then I got divorced in 2015. And then for a few years, I had two sons in the house. My oldest son was always gone. So not that I was a single parent, but my two youngest sons have been living with me for the most part for the last 4 years, 5 years or so. So it really changed a lot about, well, the main thing that really changed for me was just the fact that I had started learning and I had started delving more into information about parenting in general. And with getting more information, certain things became more clear, but other things became more confusing. So I end up having to weed through all of this stuff. I'm still weeding through all of it. I'm still evolving and adjusting, even from gaining all of that knowledge during the pandemic. I'm still sorting through some of that stuff in my head. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, it forced me to, not forced me, it allowed me more time to spend into research about parenting, and it made things more clear and it made things more cloudy and fuzzy at the same time. So but now my youngest is 17 and he's a senior in high school. So now I got to get more information because now they're in a different stage of their life, and parenting a 17-year-old is going to be different than parenting a 19-year-old. So
same here. I got a 17-year-old as well. I'm gonna say during that time, it just made me kind of sit back and ask the question: is my son prepared to go out into this world? And what I mean by prepared is, do we know how to do simple things like how to pay a light bill, how to pay mortgage, what a check stub looks like, things like that. So I
How
took
to
the
tie a
time
tie
at
for an
that
interview.
time, how to tie a tie, things like that. So I took that time to show him those little things that in a regular period we will be going so fast that you will miss out on some of those things. Something very important in our community: how to bust somebody behind in dominoes. I showed them that. Very important. But at the end of the day, man, just making sure that my son was prepared for those things that a school can't necessarily or won't necessarily show you. And as well as with being 17 years old now, but 16 at the time, girls, dating, things like that, the importance of it, how to treat a woman, all of those things. I took that time to pour into him those simple things that I know he'll need when he's out there in this world. So
I would just want to say this before we go to the next topic. I think sometimes when I speak, it may seem like I only parent my grandchildren. And even though my children, my daughter, my oldest is 34. So I got old kids, but I still got to parent them because I realized along the way, I coddled my daughters to the point at times where they couldn't function, as TMI was just talking about. When they'd be when they first, my daughter got married, every week she calling me, "Daddy, how you cook this?" And she up that line acting like she know how to cook, and she calling me every week. And so that's one of those things. Like with my grandkids, that's why I make them cook, because I'm like, when I had foot surgery and my daughters lived with me, I learned that they didn't know how to cook. Oh, daddy done cribbled y'all. My daughters got the chicken right out the packet and was throwing it in grease. I'm like, whoa, y'all trying to kill me. So yeah, it's like we have to make sure that they are ready to be on their own in every facet of life, and not just whether or not they wrap it up or things of that nature.
I like it. I like it. What we're going to do, we're going to shift gears a little bit. And, one of the other things that we wanted to talk about was child support. Child support comes in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. Everybody on this panel, whether you're married or not, at some point may, or well, not everybody, but for the ones who are not married, child support may be something that they may have to pay one day. Just being a reality of it, especially with such a large number of marriages ending in divorce. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the horn around and just pretty much want to know what everybody's perspective is when it comes to child support in general.
Are you sure you want me to talk about this?
Hey, I don't have any questions up here that I do not want us to talk about, because it's important for you, because you are going to be, let me back that up. But your decision to get married, not necessarily you, but some people who are not getting married, may be based off of the end result that they may not be able to see their children, or that they may have to pay child support one day. So if you're not married, it's very important that you do a lot of thinking before you decide to walk down that aisle, because the system is not necessarily set up for you in case you end up in the divorce.
It's about to go down.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm not. Nope.
It's
And
going
you
down.
can't make me. I'm muting my mic.
No.
You don't have to.
Hey,
Oh man, y'all! I jump on child support because I know I had to pay a grip. I think when I was in the military, I was paying over $1,800 a month in
Jesus
child
Lord
Sheesh.
Christ.
and I had to live in I was living in a fourplex. They got fourplexes here in Texas, and I still had to be a part of my children's lives. So if they called me, "Daddy, I need this. Daddy, I need that," I wasn't one of them people who said, "Well, I sent your mama to check on her first." I always had to make up for whatever. And I think child support, it's a good and a bad. I think the system is set up and rigged to destroy men, period. That's how I think it. I think it's supposed to be to protect the children, but you wind up over embellishing what the makeup for the mother, because you not only take care of the children, you take care of the mother. Now, I do think some men get over paying $130 a month and stuff like that, because that's not going to provide for a child. That's not going to provide lights, water, food, housing, clothing, and things like that. But that's why before you stick your little Peter in her, you got to be prepared. If you ain't prepared, don't go playing. If you can't play, you can't pay to play. You don't need to be on the team. So just hold off for a minute. And I think that's what we need to tell our boys, because if you're not ready to marry her, you shouldn't be trying to go up in her. You just trying to get your rocks off. And we tell our girls don't get pregnant, and we worried about the girls because they got to bring the babies home. But then the boys, they get out there and be skating everywhere and then have babies everywhere, and no sense of value and no sense of urgency to make it happen for that child. So I think we got to look more into not having these children that aren't necessarily unwanted, but the relationships are dissolved. So, but if you got to pay, you got to pay. Make it happen.
Roland, I'm going to go the opposite direction. We have to be more responsible, because the women have been taught that they don't have to be responsible because they have an entire entity backing them. No, it's not. Because it's crazy how we have to be more responsible for a womb that isn't attached to our bodies.
While you're pausing, I think we got to be responsible for the seed that we're trying to put in their body.
What I'm saying is, yes, there is a seed. And this is the part that I really wish that we would start teaching our youth at a very, very young age. We carry the spark of life. Vic say it all the time. Women aren't creators until we make them creators. They have to have a seed to fertilize. So we have to teach our sons that our seed is extremely important, because right now the women are being taught that they can be as free as they want to be, with zero consequences. So we have to be extra responsible. And I'm speaking as a guy who's in the cesspool of a dating market.
I'm gonna bring it back the opposite way. I'm with Roland. I don't give a crap about child support. You picked her. Get over it. Now you made the mistake. Get over it. It didn't work out with her after 20 years. Get over it. You let it to the courts system to choose what you pay. Get over it. You're not changing that anytime soon. So I'm gonna focus on catching these boys early. I'm gonna tell them, make sure you make your bag, make sure you have good pickings, and then make sure you do everything possible to make it work, because the court system is not for you. You were paying $1,800 before you divorced her. You just didn't know it, but that money was being given to the child anyway. You just didn't know it. Now it's enforced. So now you know the number you're paying. Now you know the number of what it takes for her to run the household. But you were doing that already. If the court system doesn't, if you let it up to the court system and you decided to make that mistake, sucks to be you. No. That kid's gonna have the same lifestyle it had when you were in the house, and it's gonna have a better lifestyle when you leave, because that's where it was headed. I had no problem paying child support if I messed up. I have no problem leaving it to the courts, because it ain't gonna change with my little small minuscule vote. It's not gonna change anytime soon. So you have to teach these guys and these girls to really, really vet the person you're with, really, really take some discipline, because the system is not for you. That's it.
Then we all agree.
I'm sorry it happens. I am. But no.
Then we all agree, because we're all saying that what we're all saying is we need to teach the men to be more decisive with their seeds.
But it's important. I got to go Roland for a second. Roland said, get your rocks off. And we all know you got to get your rocks off, right? So I got an idea. I'm going to buy my son one of those dolls, the ones that look real. And we're going to name her Roxy. So whenever he won't get his rocks off, because spending that $2,000 is a hell of a lot better than getting hit with $2,000 a month.
Absolutely.
And put condoms on the grocery list like I did. Because if you're going to be out here, at least be the guy that says, all right, man, if you're going to be out here, take these and use them. Because if you come back here with a child that you didn't have, with a woman that you didn't jump over the broom with, the first question I'm going to ask you is, where are the condoms that I bought you?
Right.
Exactly.
Hey, Chris, I want to say something real quick, though, on a serious note regarding the system. Please understand, I don't really think the system is against men, because it don't matter.
Glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to touch on that, because I used to work in the system. I was an employee. So go ahead. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. TMI.
In from what I seen, because I'm not on the inside, whoever holds the money is who they attack. So in my opinion, it's more of a business that unfortunately the women have been labeled the gatekeepers of. They're the ones that make sure that the money come in the house. Unfortunately, men are just on the other side of the fence a lot. But to me, it was not built to destroy men. It was just built to destroy the family as a whole, in my opinion.
Wait a minute.
But the reason why it destroys the men so much is because for a long time the men have been the breadwinners. So they needed to take the money out of the men's hands and put it into the people who spend it. Like I said on Vic's podcast last time, it's not that women make 70% of every dollar. They spend 70% of every dollar. So why not take the money out of the dude who's making the money and make him pay the woman that's going to spend the money, so that way we can all get paid, because judges, the magistrates, the whole system get a percentage off of all of the child support that's getting initiated. So and this is me speaking as somebody that worked and saw this actually happen. Case in point, Aries Spears tells the story all the time. He got divorced. He got divorced from his woman. First of all, you got to pay for everything as the guy who's getting divorced. So all of that's coming out of his pocket right out the gate. So he was like 200. He was like 200K in the hole before they even went to paternity court. He paid for all of the bills. He paid for the house. He paid for the car. And they sat down and said that $5,000 was going to be enough to take care of everybody. The judge gave his wife $30,000 because $25,000 was just sitting on the table and it was just available. So it's not about it's not about the man versus the woman. It's about the breadwinner, and to take the money out of the breadwinner's hands and give it to the person that's less responsible according to what the system says. And that's just looking at it for what it is and seeing it actually happen.
But wait, you do know, even if the wife makes more than the husband, the courts will still go after the husband for child support, right? Let's be clear on that. Yes,
No.
you're wrong. That's what, that's what you're wrong.
Hey, wait a minute.
No.
I'm a product of that.
Hey, really
No,
quick,
no,
y'all
wait a
can
minute,
ask, who was it? Was it Mary J. Blige?
You're
Mary
right.
J.
Ask a couple of those celebrity
Adele.
females.
Halle
we
Berry,
talking celebrity. I'm a
all
regular dude.
paying child support.
Right,
But
They're just
Roland,
not in the media.
Roland, I have seen it go the other way.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm the other way
I have
because
seen it go the other way.
I'm
Because, like I said, they're
E6,
trying to take the money out of the man's hands and put it into the woman's hands for the majority of the time. But now, since women are starting to make more, quote unquote, the courts are now saying, okay, you the breadwinner, so now you got to cash this dude out.
Exactly.
Well, we're not talking superstars. We talking about regular people.
I'm not talking superstars either.
Okay, I'm talking.
I know a couple of guys that's getting child support from a woman.
I know people that women are making a killing. If my friend's wife is a lawyer, making 2 times more than him, and the courts didn't even look at her salary when it came to child support. They only looked at him. The second meeting was on her, but the first meeting on how much he's paying was on him. And the courts knew that she was the major breadwinner of the family. The courts
Who had the kids?
Hey,
Who had the kids?
And she had his house.
I'm gonna shut up.
I'm sorry. Who had the kids?
She had the kids, and she had his house. So I don't know what you're talking about.
She holds the property. That's
no, you misunderstand.
Here's what he mentioned. This is what I tell you guys: it's a lawyer, right? It all depends on your lawyer as well too. If you have a really good lawyer, that makes a big difference. Antoine, you said that she was a lawyer, right?
You're right.
So she had connections. That lawyer game is different.
No,
you gotta have a good lawyer, and you gotta have a good mediator, and you gotta have a good magistrate that works with all of them.
First of all, they both was lawyer. He was criminal, she was industrial. I'm just saying, in the proceedings, the court, when it came to child support, did not even look at her salary. If the house was in his name, he still had to leave it. The first thing, the initial court date, the initial proceedings, nothing was for the man. The only thing was for the man is, this is your number you're paying. They didn't even look at her salary. Okay. And that was it. Now, obviously, the kids, any good lawyer will tell you, don't try to fight for the kids. You're going to lose all your money trying to do that. Right. You gotta, have the mediation, and hopefully you get 50-50. Don't try to fight for your kids. It ain't gonna happen. You could, good luck, but it isn't going to be in your favor. But technically, I'm with Roland on this one. Whew.
I went to court. Me and my ex, we had an agreement.
Yeah.
She made much more money than me. She was a major. I was like E6, E7, something. But she made much more money than me. We had joint custody of the children. But the lawyer, when we was in there, we both in there, we were in there, he said, you can get more from him, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, well, God, dog, I'm sitting right here. You can say that behind my back.
No, I've seen that too.
She said, no, we got this agreement. And everything was cool. Everybody ain't like that, because my first ex, every 3 years, she was going back to the court. Hey, I need an increase. Like, yeah, this ain't your per diem, is it?
Because at the end of the day, it's a business.
That's what I'm saying.
Damn, where the money come from, as long as they get the money.
But listen, man, I'm gonna tell y'all a quick story about something that I actually saw firsthand when I was running files from family court to the child support building. There was a dude down there who was actually taking responsibility, and he was saying, all right, I have these kids, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know they need to be taken care of. What are my options? And he laid out everything, brought it all of his income. He had a really decent lawyer and all of that. Do you know what the clerk did? The clerk stopped everything that she was doing after he left, picked up the phone, ran him through the system, and called all of his baby mamas and said, hey, I got his updated income. What you want to do?
Wow.
Hey, one of the things I want to get back to the question, like literally, and then I want to hear from some people that has been through this already, that has either paid child support through the court system or have done it on their own. I definitely want to hear some of you guys' experiences. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with nothing that I heard you guys say. But I kind of want to paint the picture because I think we're having the wrong conversation. I've listened to it so many times. We talk about the men, we talk about the women, and whatever the case may be. And for those of us who actually pay child support, the term that they're used is what's in the best interest of the child. And the only thing that's in the best interest of the child is a situation that involves both parents. But that system literally is designed to create a rift between parents. I like to talk about it like this. For those of us who've been in the military, you would clearly get this. So you have combat support, and you have combat service support. Support literally supports the combat forces. That's what they do. They're in the thick of it with the combat forces. Combat service support is the things that are brought up front to help them fight the battle. You're talking about fuel, bullets, all that other great stuff. But at the end of the day, the ones who get the attention is combat, tanks, Bradleys, infantry, all those guys. But combat support is there to ensure that they're successful. So the combat is the mission. Well, in the grand scheme of things, the child is the mission. The parents are the support, not one, but both. Anything outside of the parents is the service support. Mamas, grandparents, cousins, siblings, monies, even if it comes from the custodial or non custodial parents. The money is not the important aspect. That is the service support. The support is the parents. So until we have the conversation that helps both parties, custodial and non custodial, understand that the focus should be on two people working and cooperating together for the sake of the child, we're going to always have the recycle of the same conversation we just had. I went through this to where I put myself on child support because I knew as soon as I jumped in that truck, pointed it east, and rode off into the sunset, she was going straight to the magistrate's office. So I refused to let that happen to me. And so I put myself on child support so that I can make sure that I gave her no power over what was going to happen. Now, let's just be completely honest. I was still powerless in the system. I couldn't stop it when I wanted to stop it. But ideally, if we could have worked together, I would have never had to go into the system. I could have sent it straight to her. And oh, yeah, by the way, when I traveled to Texas, guess who paid for the ticket? Guess who paid for the hotel room? Guess who paid for the rental car? So not only was I paying someplace along the line with Roland, you paid 18. When I got divorced, I was paying about 19, almost 2,000 between child support and spousal support, right? Then you add visitation, airline ticket, hotel, rental car. And of course, the kids don't want to just sit in the house and look at TV. So we got to go do stuff. There are some months when I visited, it was easy for me to spend $5,000 easily. But that's the world that we find ourselves in simply because two people at one point in time claim they love one another. But then when it doesn't go, the way that a person wants it to go, now they're at the point of hate. Well, it was never love to start off with. Let's just call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, until we get to the point to where we can permeate the message, the dominant message in our community, where the community realize that it's bigger than just me, right, Chris? I think you say this all the time, that it's bigger than just me. It is all about the community, and it's all about the child first. The child
And this kid ain't no pawn. This
Right.
kid is not a pawn for you to get a goddamn check from the state. This is a living, breathing being.
Absolutely.
What is wrong with y'all?
And the identity of that child. Hold on. Let me finish. The identity of that child is found in both parents. It does not matter the sex of that child. There is no superstars when it comes down to raising children. It is two people cooperating for the well-being of the parent. So if you are a single parent raising a child, stop giving yourself all these accolades as though you need to be put up on a pedestal. That's your responsibility.
Yep.
If you are a non-custodial parent and you're not there, right? Stop giving yourself accolades because you pay child support. At the end of the day, both people need to humble themselves and realize that that child is the most important thing. Stop letting the court system tell you that they're operating within the best interest of the child. It is a lie.
But
And I'm
men,
gonna say this the same way I said this on your post before. Hold on, because Coach said something that I need to touch on. And I said this the last time that I said this when we were talking about if the parents deserve honor or not. And Roland know what I'm talking about. These kids don't owe their parents nothing. Are you kidding me? You owe the kid because you made the selfish ass choice to have that kid. That kid didn't ask to be here. And do you really think if that kid had the choice to be here, he would not have his mom and his dad in the same place at the same time, making sure everything was cool and working together so that way he can see how he's supposed to function later on in life? Are you kidding me? Come on, man. See, let me stop. Let me stop.
But Chris, you see, that's why within my wolf pack, I have a lawyer, right? I have a lawyer in my wolf pack. And my lawyer, I spent the best $2,000 having my prenuptial draft up way before I'm even getting close, right? That's one thing.
You have an agreement pushed up and you don't even have a woman in mind?
Waiting so long to get married.
Insert name here.
Even he ready for his blow up doll of divorcing. He already ready.
So long to get married. I got it. Waiting so long to get married with all these horror stories. I have that paperwork. It was the best $2,000 I ever spent, and I know for a fact she don't sign.
I love it here.
We live together, but we ain't getting married, right? I don't know if we live together because I kind of like my solitude.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I would say every young man coming up, invest that $2,000 and get that in advance. Because you know what? Even if the kid's not yours and you marry a baby mama, you may have to pay child support with that kid that's not yours. It's amazing what the court system could do and what she can do with you in the courts, right? So my thing has it. No. This is what you're signing. And I'm hoping I have a wife, or at that time, if she's an ex-wife, that I'm able to have that conversation that I don't want nothing to affect the kid. This is between you and me. I don't want that kid's lifestyle child to know that daddy's there 100%, mommy's there 100%. I'm not going to fight for sole custody and all, unless she's a bad mother. But yeah, definitely, it's the best. I would tell everybody it's the best $2,000 I ever spent. Just knowing I had that.
So Antoine,
Coach said
just for
something
clarification, you would just make sure that you were in your child's life, and you would make sure that your child knows that they have a father.
Yep, and a mother. If she's a good mother,
I want to add this in. Antoine. This is just for everybody, especially the viewer watching. Once you get married, you have zero control over the end result. And what I mean by that is this: we can only control ourselves. We can never control the other person. We could get married and everything could be bliss at first, but something could happen and you could end up in a situation to where you are no longer together. You know what I mean? So you really, really, really have to vet the person correctly, both people. Right. You know what I mean? And I say that to say this: it's better have a backup plan, because once the divorce starts, you have zero control over the outcome. You have zero control over her. You have zero control over what she decides to do. You guys are getting divorced for a reason. Right. You guys couldn't work it out. So if you can't work it out, why do you think that it's going to be peaches and cream afterwards? In perfect situations, in some situations, it happens. I was able to work with my ex-wife and we were able to come to an agreement. That's not the majority. I understand that I am few and far between when it comes to these conversations, when it comes to these stories, as far as how men get to raise their children or not, get to be in their children's lives or not. I was fortunate enough that me and my ex-wife were able to work things out, and my sons were able to come and live with me, even though I was still paying her child support. But that's just part of the agreement that I had. And yeah, but sometimes it just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Right. Sometimes it's better just to. It is what it is. I ain't gonna go off on all of that.
No, but you're absolutely right.
What I was saying is just that, at the end of the day, once that divorce happens, or you end up going down that road, you don't have control over the outcome.
You don't have control over the outcome. I'm not saying you have control over the outcome. What I'm saying is I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna make sure we have that conversation that, listen, this is between you and me. The child is not gonna be impacted. That's my sole meaning. You and I gonna have it out. Because we're going for the money thing, but
what I'm
is
But
not
what
going
I'm
to.
saying is you have zero control on what she decides to do. You
That's
can
why.
you
That's why my $2,000 is invested.
pause,
No?
Antoine, pause. You have zero control over another person. You can have that conversation all day long. If she
Right.
chooses to not agree with it, there is nothing you can do about it.
That's
And
okay.
here's the thing, Antoine. Wait a minute. Here's the thing. Here's the
Let me
thing.
talk
Nope.
about that.
Here's the thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Because there are going to be attorneys, mediators, magistrates, and all of those people in her ear telling her all of the things that she can
Right.
get from you. That's why
Right.
Uncle Junior is saying that you can't control how she acts, because she has to take in all of that information and think about if that's the better deal than what you offering her. And the
Right.
state will make you do that. You
Right.
understand what I'm
Okay.
saying?
I'm not saying that,
So
but I'm
can
just
I
telling you,
add?
with the prenuptial coming from a lawyer, they have to start at that point. That's all I'm saying. They have to start at
Yeah,
that point.
that's
And
true.
at
All
that
I'm
point,
saying.
it probably won't be kids yet.
No, it has to start at that, because everything that I want and I demand within this relationship is on that. That dotted line benefits me. She signs that dotted line. She's going to know clearly when she takes it to her lawyer, this is A, B, and C. This cannot be contested. I want you to know what you're signing before you sign it. Because
So
I'm telling you,
you have
Wait, can I
your
say-
children in that document.
it's written as if we have pending children. If we have pending children, the well-being of the child will be provided for equally within both parents' understanding. Outside of that, we're going at it.
All
Maybe
right, so let me say,
maybe a trip to Italy, shark diving. I don't know, but that's afterwards. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Antoine. Hey, I'm gonna give Antoine some advice.
Yeah.
Hey, I respect your paperwork, and I kind of want to see it go down. However, when
Not
you
me.
present, when you no, not go down like that, but when you present this paperwork to her, please do it in a calm tone,
Well, come
because there's ways around that paperwork where she can say she signed under distress, and your paperwork won't count.
Then
So,
let's go. No.
Let me say this real quick though. Coach said something earlier where he says the best interest of the child.
Yep.
That is so far from the reason why this system was designed that
Vague,
it's not even
very
fun.
vague.
Because if it was the best interest of the child, wouldn't the child be with the parent who can support them? Because they always tend to give them to the parent that has the least amount of support, and then draft the large amount from the parent that got it.
Listen, 90% of the time, the child goes to the mother. So
this is true. This is true. Which that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing all the time, because I've seen kids go to crackhead mothers, and then they draft funds from a dad that's a great dad.
Totally.
However, if you got the best interest for your child, mostly I'm gonna say ladies, because y'all the ones putting folks on paperwork. If you got the best interest for your child, don't put your child on that paperwork. Don't put your child's father on that paperwork. Work out something with that person that at one point y'all was reasonable, but the system is genius because the system bleeds off the emotions of a scarred woman. Bleeds off of it. So that's why they're able to, the attorneys and the mediators and all of them are able to take that woman into a room and say, hey, we can get more. And she's like, yeah, because I want to hurt him. It ain't got nothing to do with supporting the kid.
That's what I'm trying to say, man.
So, and I get your ironclad I get it, but Antoine, you got a harsh tone.
You will never be. No,
I will say this about the ironclad, and I'm gonna pull out real quick. I got in and out. So the ironclad, if you go back and listen to you caught it. If you go back and listen to what he actually said, he said the exact same thing that the child support system said. It will be supported. The child will be supported by both parents. Every time you go before a child support hearing, the non-custodial parent pay, the custodial parent care for and nurture. So what you said, brother, fits the parameters of child support. It ain't gonna work. I'm telling you right now what I know for experience. It ain't gonna work.
Watch.
I hope it works out, but I'm gonna tell you right now that
You know what? Listen,
based upon what I know,
When
I
is
don't-
he gonna
I don't-
insert?
I don't
When
plan
is he
on
gonna
getting
insert the
divorced.
name? I want to know. I gotta
No,
follow
listen,
this.
I don't.
This
I
is
don't.
an example of an unhealthy competition.
I don't
Ben
plan. I
Shapiro.
don't plan on
I just let him
I
talk
don't getting
because
divorced.
he don't have no child support experience, but he still got something to say. And I
Listen,
don't know.
you don't have to have. It doesn't matter if you have to have child support experience. You could talk to any lawyer, which you haven't. You could talk to any lawyer, which you haven't, and have a decent conversation with him about what's my chances. You can listen to the lead attorney, and he still says the same thing my lawyer says. So there is a starting point for men. You just have to get that signature up front. You choose not to do it because you don't believe in it. That's on you. I'm just saying I spent the best $2,000 of my life, and I would not get married unless she signs. And another thing, I will never sign my house over joint and all this to her. I'm not leaving. You did nothing to build this. Nothing. And you're coming in with nothing because I'm not going to live with you. You're coming to live with me. I lead. You don't like it?
She will come and live with you.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
Before you know it, ask Tiger Woods, your
Yeah,
ass will be gone, and
but he
she
didn't have
will
a prenup.
all of your stuff.
Listen. That's another thing. You guys keep. I'm telling you, you really need to have a discussion with a lawyer. You're talking right now without having a. I had my 4 hours with him.
Right.
I have my paperwork with him.
You're comparing 4 hours to
Hey,
real
can we
life
say-
experience.
You talking to a dude who's seen it happen.
What are you talking about?
Can we
You have
say
no
this?
kids. You have no
Antoine, I'm not
I've actually
You don't even
witnessed
have a
this.
prenup. What are you talking about, Vic? You don't even
Wait,
know.
real quick.
What are you
I'm
talking
not
about?
dumping on Antoine, but Antoine, can we agree that some professionals will tell you anything to get your money at that time? To get your money at that time. However, when the situation changes,
I'm tapping out.
we can't say that they're going to go by what was initially said.
Absolutely. But it starts at that starting point. At least you have that starting point. That's the key thing he was telling me. At least you have a starting point as men. That's all he's saying. That's all he's saying.
The thing is, those
I don't know what you guys are talking
those
about.
prenuptial agreements, dude,
Hey,
they are
better than nothing. It's better than nothing.
It is. It's true. However, I've seen them blow their nose on some of them prenuptial agreements.
Well, you know what? Listen, I'm hoping I never get married, but I got my safeguard. At least they're starting at that point. Now, I don't care what I have to pay to support my kid. I don't care. Whatever it is, he's not going to know. He's not going to know the difference of daddy not being there. Like my father said, if my father ever divorced my mother, he said it. You will never know I'm not gone. Period. And that's cool with me. And that's cool. But I'm just saying, at least there's a starting point. I'm not going to say, oh, the paperwork doesn't work. Oh, this doesn't work. No, you haven't sat down for 4 hours like I did and talked to a lawyer and paid $2,000 and hear him say, he's in my wolf pack. He's got his best interest for me. And he's been divorced already. So at least he can consult something. That's all I'm saying. But if my wife doesn't want to sign, that's okay. Baby, you know what? It was great, but you're not getting the ring. And it's okay. I'm okay with that. But if somebody else would do the heavy lifting, it just ain't you. So I don't know.
Once again, support.
You know?
You said Gamal?
Does Antoine's divorce lawyer pay child support?
Yeah, well, he's over now. The kid is over 18, so those days are over for him. But he did.
Did he have a prenup?
I guess his damn agreement wasn't that strong.
He got married out of college. He didn't have a prenup. He got married out of college, and she was there for the heavy lifting.
Hey, Antoine, I'm gonna tell you this though, man. I respect the paperwork that you have. However, I've witnessed men, friends of mine, cry because they thought they had the same protection, only to find out that system don't mean us no good when we're in it.
Listen, it's a gamble. It's a gamble getting married. Listen, getting married is a gamble today. It is a gamble today.
Antoine, I'm gonna be real with you. And this is speaking as somebody that's been an employee of this system. I'm glad you took the time out to spend that money to get that paperwork written, and I'm glad you took the time out to get that paperwork stabilized, and you know what you're going into. However, if that woman decides that she don't want to sign that and you leave her, you understand what I'm saying? And you have, are we speaking as, since we're speaking hypotheticals, are we speaking as you having children before you marry?
No.
So you're only going to have children within the covenant of a marriage.
Yeah, I would never do the baby mama outside of marriage shit. No way.
Okay.
I can afford better. No, not happening.
As long as your wife doesn't sign that piece of paper and then and then 2 or 3 days after you
That's
decided
clear. I
you
can
want to
approve
divorce
that.
her, say that she signed it into rest, and they wipe their butt with that piece of paper, you good.
Speak on it, coach, because
No, I thought I heard
No way.
something. Not,
you
nope.
heard it.
Nope. I'm not
You
gonna
I'm
heard
do
getting
it.
out the way.
No,
I'm out of the
Coach,
way.
do it.
I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm just saying I have a starting point. I'm not saying, and I'm telling you, I'm prepared to
You
leave.
are making it perfect.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm just
Antoine,
saying.
You have a very dangerous
I'm just
need
saying-
to be right
I'm
about
just saying I have the. I'm
Antoine,
just saying I have a starting point. That's all I'm saying.
whatever
I'm just saying-
magistrate or
I got
whatever magistrate or whatever lawyer you have sitting in front of you can look at that piece of paper and say, so what?
maybe, but you know what? It's there for a reason, and if that's the starting point. I'll
Again,
take
that
over
could be
walking
the starting
traffic.
point for you.
Right.
The state can say something completely different.
Listen, but still,
And that's
yeah.
and this is speaking as a guy who's seen it done. The state can literally say, okay, you got that little piece of paper signed. So what? You still the breadwinner and you still got to pay this woman. And since she's living in your house and she's getting mail at your house, that's her house too. And you got to get the hell out. And if
Well,
you
first of all-
get the
first-
hell out,
first of all-
I'm going to hold you in contempt for every day that you in that house. I've
First of all-
seen this. You understand what I'm saying? I've seen this done.
Hey, Chris,
Doesn't work that
Chris,
way.
and I saw the situation where somebody mentioned earlier where a friend of mine had to pay for the divorce, pay for her to relocate, pay 2 to 3 months of her rent, utilities, child support, and spousal support. I've seen it, like
That's
literally
the thing.
seen it. And dude, all of the things in the world, especially this, nobody ever says this. He went and got a female lawyer, and his damn female lawyer sided with the damn.
What do you think?
Well,
The
that's
girl
mistake
code
number
is
one.
universal.
Exactly. Good.
The
No.
woman code is universal.
Like what we
Hey.
did.
It does not matter what race she is. If you could get money out of this dude that don't want to be with you no more, or you don't want to be with this dude no more, you want to get money out of him. All right,
All right.
I'm going to help you by destroying him and making him think that I'm actually on his side. Are you serious?
You know what, Chris? Because 9 times out of 10, she had to go through the damn situation herself.
And
Hey.
if we're honest, that's how she get paid.
Go ahead.
Right. That
All
part too.
right, I'm a shut up.
And
I'm
that's
shut
what
up.
that's what really, and I'm sorry, but that's what I really want to get across to people is that when people are in the in the business of making money, they are able to eliminate the emotions out of things where you are not. See, Antoine, honestly, that attorney will sit down. He's looking like, man, I get $2,000 just to sit down and draft up a piece of bull crap for this guy who ain't even in this situation right now. Absolutely, I'll do it.
It's such an asinine way to look at it, dude. Seriously.
And then when you're in that situation, hold on real quick. Then it's going down real
You really
quick.
think it goes down like that? Come on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hey, Antoine, check this out.
That's why you can't have a
Wait,
conversation like that.
Now you go back to that same attorney with your ex-wife to be and your children, and he tell you something totally different than what's on that paper.
You really, that's why I'm not going to speak for how it is because I've been through it. I think everybody should have that education. It's an hour for free if you even have, just to go into it and hear what he has to say. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying it's a starting point. Now you can take it as you want, but I'm not going to listen to these guys on the panel when I've actually done it and hear the pros and cons, because there is pros and cons, but at least there's a starting point that they have to acknowledge of what went down. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm going in there and it's going to be roses. I'm hoping I have that conversation and I'm able to have that conversation with the wife I choose, right? I'm not talking about choosing somebody that's unprofessional, not on the same wavelength with me. I'm not going into this lovey-dovey puppy, fairy tale life. That's craziness, right? I'm not going to do that. But I'm telling you now, she's not going to be on my mortgage. She's not going to be on the rent. She's not doing any of that. She's not paying any of those bills, right? If things happen between us, I'm not leaving my house. I'm not signing it over to her. She'll never be on it. Never, until I'm dead. And then after that, I don't care what happens. Everything goes to my kids anyways. I'm just saying I'm not going into a marriage unprepared. or at least knowing I did the most I can do on my part. That's all. That's
I just
I'm not gonna
I
put
just
myself in a
understand.
position with a baby mama, somebody that's ratchet. I'm not gonna do that. She's gonna be able to form a proper sentence, cross her legs, and form a full sentence, cross her legs, and speak like a feminine woman. And I'm hoping she's educated enough to have a conversation with me, to discuss with me if it doesn't work out between you and me, and we both agree we want the best for the children. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not.
Antoine, do she have to cross her legs if she got on jeans?
Oh, shoot.
Never mind.
Hey, we ain't about to have the gene conversation. Coach,
Right.
did you want to say something before I end the
That's
show?
like finding a
No,
needle in
man.
a stack
All
of
right.
needles.
No, bro.
Hey, here's what we're gonna do, folks. We about to end the show, but before we do, we're gonna go around and we're gonna give y'all our final thoughts. And we're gonna start with the none other than Mr. Gamal.
All right, you got it. So since we're in the Wolfpack podcast, I will say this: once you bring a kid into this world, regardless of child support, regardless of whether you and the other parent see eye to eye, you become a leader. So my message is lead your tribe. Lead your tribe through challenges. Lead by example. Make an impact. You're here to make a difference in their lives. So make sure you lead your tribe.
I'm going to say make sure that your integrity as a man stays in place. I believe if you keep that integrity as a man, then for the most part, it will keep a lot of the nonsense that we have to go through as fathers and as co-parents. It'll keep that in order. At the end of the day, I know we're saying a lot about women and how they are controlling the system and things like that. But one thing that I know for sure, a woman knows a man who is not going to tolerate the things that she is capable of doing. So if you keep that integrity, you stand on your manhood and you lead, I feel that that can help most of the issues that we go through.
First of all, I'll go into it like this. I think every man should go. First of all, at the age that I'm at now, I've done my research on marriage, right? What I tend to lose, what I gain. I've went over my lifestyle, what I want to maintain. And I think that everybody, before they get married in today's world, modern world today, should have that sit down with a lawyer in front of you that's skilled, knows what he's talking about, and has been there and done the homework. And I think you need to do that before you propose, get down on one knee, do all that lovey-dovey stuff, right? And know what marriage is about, what you're signing over, what you're not signing over, what she's coming in with, and what she's going to leave with if it doesn't work out. I'm not saying go into marriage with the mindset that it might not work. No, you're going to give it your 100%. And in that time, if life is created, then you want the best thing for that child. Really don't care what happens to the wife part because you and I didn't work out. But we're going to make sure in a whole, and I think you should make sure in a whole, whatever child support is, it is. Whatever that child had before you were in the house and out of that, it's there. You should maintain that. That's all I'm saying. Know what you're getting into and do what you need to do to protect yourself as a man. You know your lifestyle before she stepped in it. And you want to maintain that. You know, as a professional artist myself, ain't no woman going to come in and get 50% of what I do. Hell no. You didn't do nothing. That's why she's not involved in my professional life. She will never be involved in my professional life. She will never know nothing about my professional life because I keep that separate from my personal life, right? The man I need to be for her, to lead, to provide. Don't get those two mixed up. The minute you start saying she's coming in as a helpmate and all that bullshit, no, she ain't coming in for shit. She's coming in to be there for you, you for her. You build a family, you grow, support one another. But listen, you had your life before she came in. She had her life before she came in. It's coexisting, co-parenting. You understand? It's building together. And if things don't work out, okay, what's the best way for the family moving forward? Because you and I didn't work out. That's it.
So my experience with child support was that in my first marriage, I had a child who was born out of my first marriage that I didn't find out wasn't biologically mine until she was 9 years old. I paid 4 years of child support to find out that the kid wasn't mine. And then I got blamed for the DNA test not being in the woman's favor. So in that situation, it took me 2 years, even after the child was separated paternity from me. And, you know, I had to relinquish my parental rights and things of that nature just so I can get out of the admin of it. So even after they proved paternity, the way that child support is ran is an extortion operation where they leverage the kid, you know. So they have an escrow account on it. There's plenty of documentation. There's been studies, analysis done to show that the child support system is really an extortion system where they leverage your kid and they actually hold you liable for the amount of child support owed on the baby that you made, you know, so, or didn't even make in that case. So bottom line is that you have to have an objective opinion in order to take in nuances and experiences and just see if it's an anecdotal opinion or is it even founded on anything that's credible. The men that was speaking up here have credible opinions, but not everybody has credible experience. And in most cases, they don't even know how to articulate it because if they don't have the experience, what are you talking about? And if actions speak louder than words, then what are you doing when you shutting out somebody else's perspective on the child support system? And this is for the people that have an inability to be objective. You're speaking from subjective places because you don't have the firsthand experience. And the point being is that we have to translate what happens to men in order for the co-parent to understand what circumstances they're putting their child under and making them instantly disadvantaged and not having access to the abundance of resources that a two-parent healthy co-parenting situation affords the child. But you can find out more of that in my book, The Code. And if you want to have an expanded conversation, make sure you move over to the Code Talk platform that's going live at 9 p.m. EST right after this right here. And again, tune in to Elevated Dialogue on Wednesdays so you can have more of this conversation.
Final thoughts. Paternal parenting and child support. I'm going to say that the best way to not be involved in this is to not be involved in this. We have to start teaching our sons that their seed might be the most important thing in the world. We have to start teaching our daughters that their wombs might be the most important place in this world. And we can't just give that to anybody. So I think that's where we should start. And then the whole child support, paternal parenting thing won't be an issue because they understand that they're not supposed to be giving that to just any old body anyway. And I'm going to just leave it at that.
Muted.
Sorry about that. I think
Yeah.
responsible men, mature men, plan for everything. And if you aren't really planning for children, you aren't planning for your family, you're not really ready because you're going to have to plan after the fact. So, first and foremost, learn yourself and who you are before you even try to add that to anybody else. Because what you do then is you bring children in the world and then you uh, try to parent from behind or learn from everybody else and everything that nature. So, and we all know that life happens, situations happen. Like me, I started having kids when I was very young and I wasn't ready, but I had people in my life to help steer me in the right directions that helped me along the way. But I made a lot of mistakes. That's why I've paid child support and I've been divorced and all these things because I had uh, children and spouses that I didn't necessarily know the use of. So I abused my authority with that. So make sure that you know what you're getting into beforehand, before you talking about prenups, before you talking about birth control and all these other things. All this is a conversation that has to be had before, whether it's child support and everything. You got to have a conversation with the person that you're partnering with and just make sure you, even if it doesn't work, you respect the other person enough to have a conversation to do what's best for the children, because at the end of the day, they are what's important. And I always say, when you cut the marriage, when you sever the marriage, the parents bleed on the children, no matter how old they are. That's all I have.
Well, a lot of good information. I think I'm gonna pick up right where Roland left off. But before I do that, I think every man that wants to be a father, who's thinking about fatherhood, who have not had a child yet, you should go read The Disenfranchised Father by Robert E. Fay, MD, out of Schenectady, New York. I think it'll be quite revealing to some of these conversations that we're having. My whole point behind this was when it comes down to paternal parenting, fathers should not allow the society or social norms to depict what fatherhood is. You should learn what fatherhood is through the identity of manhood. Therefore, the identity of manhood depicts what fatherhood is because you are the one responsible for the training and upbringing of the children that reside in your house. That is one of the things that you're responsible for doing. And you heard a lot of examples given here today. It's not just paying bills and it's not just making sure you got a gun and a security system on your house. It is also making sure that you interact with your children, spend time with your children, have those conversations. You heard one of the brothers mention on here, helping your son know how to tie a tie, talking to your daughter to help her to understand some of the tricks that she may encounter out in the world when it comes down to her interaction with people of the opposite sex. So I think that's an important thing to understand. Child support is not in the best interest of the child. Child support is the cooperation between, and I said that way intentionally, the cooperation between the male and the female that produced the child. So the non-custodial parent and the custodial parent, both of them, regardless of which position that they fall in, they have to find a way to cooperate so that the child can have a clear depiction of their identity. Their identity will be the thing in which they receive information from the world. If they have a flawed perspective of identity, then what ends up happening, they will start viewing certain situations to where they become either the victim and start blaming everybody for the reason why things are not going the way that they want it to go. So I think that's important to understand. We aren't just sharing this because we're bitter men. What you're hearing is a lot of experience coupled with education to go along with that. And so when you look at it from that perspective, that changed the dynamics. So with that being said, I hope we were able to share some stuff with everybody tonight, and I hope it helps somebody.
Hey man, I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody's final thoughts. I appreciate everybody who joined us tonight, everybody who has been in the chat, everybody home at watching, and anyone who may watch this on a replay. If you like this video, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, all those good things. We will see y'all again next week. Same bat time, same bat place. If you want to know more about any of these men on the panel, Mr. Gamal, what Coach got going on, Roland, everybody on this panel, you can check out the description below, and all of our information and contact information will be there. Gentlemen, again, thank y'all for a great show. Thank y'all for your time, your experience, your non-experience, your conversation, all of those different things that went into making this a great show for our audience and having some great elevated dialogue. And gentlemen, until next week, and audience, until next week, we will see y'all. We are out.